So we're up to is Dalet. So what did he say? So the Shaila, the Maimer was, why Oiroh Loshen Lekeva, not Oir, Torah Oir, and the Hemshech Advarim. That Oiroh then is connected and follows and brings Simcha Sasan in Kor, Yikor. And why do we say all the psukim in Nevi'im and in Ksuvim, this one is singled out for Kein Tiyalonu. So he explained that Oiroh has two extreme meanings and they're connected. One is Shleimus of the Mekabel, Nekeva, and the other is Oiroh is not just Oir, Mashpia, which is the actual Ashpa, but Me'ira makes light, or brings light, Mo'ir, in other words. And so the two Pirushim are connected. In order for to be Oiroh, the Shleimus of the Mekabel, it has to come from a very deep place, and the Mashpia, Oiroh Me'ira. So we find this, he illustrated this with Avram Avinu, but as long as he was Avram, so that's Seichel HaNe'elam, so then it was Behelim. But then, Av HaMoin Goyim, by adding the Hey, here again the Oiroh, the Hey, by adding the Hey to Avram, he becomes Av HaMoin Goyim, that the Seichel HaNe'elam Mikol Rayin, which is his Dargeh, which till then was concealed, is deepened and therefore is nimshach even lamata. Likewise, another illustration. So likewise in Torah, the Torah mitzad atzma is Oir, but then there's a high hamshacha in Torah that's elicited by the Mekabel, which makes the Torah Oira. And that in fact is Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebal Peh is the Mekabel, Torah Shebal Peh is mamshich Chochmas Hashem and the Rotzen in a way that's not carried overtly in Torah Shebiksav. As we explained yesterday, the holding of Torah Chadosha, the Shleimus of that will be Torah Shel Mashiach. So this is the Inyan that says in Kabbalah, in the Sefer Magen Chochma, and in Boring Chassidus at length, and in Tanya, that David was Mechaber, the Torah Shel Maila with the Eibishter. With a Raisa. Now, since Torah is now suffused with the Makara Torah, and Torah is the means, Istakal Beraisa Bara Alma, that means that through Torah, it's Nimshach Lamata, but not B'Shleimus, and Yid Mitzvahs, but then Amshacha, in essence, is brought down Lamata, and it's through the Kim of the Mitzvahs B'Peil that it happens. Although, in Torah Paskaning itself, Torah also affects the world. Just a psak din in Torah changes the reality in the world. As brought at length in Chassidus, the dogma from the Yerushalmi, the Psula Chayzrin, if the Beis Din decide to make it a leap year and she's no longer 3 years old. So Derech Hevshe, the Rebbe says, so this is Layehudim, this is the Hemshech Advarim. Hoyso Oiroh v'simcha v'sasim v'kor. First Oiroh v'simcha. So we're talking about that there's Gila Oirel is Nimshach Lamata, and it breaks all boundaries. Therefore, it has to come with and engenders, it's both, it comes with, and you need the Avodah of Avodas, he says, the Avodah of Simcha. Because Simcha is put together, and that's what we want. We want to go beyond, suffuse it on one level, but at the same time go beyond the limits of creation, suffusing it with the likus. So that's simcha. The next step is gashmis mamish. That is the other type of simcha. The Gemara says that simcha refers to yontif, and yontif is yayin bisman abayis in bosa. Bosa bisman abayis in yayin today. So comes down poshet begashmis. But this is still on a relatively ethereal level, because Oiroh of a Simchas Chachma Bina, and it's a Zivug Ruchni, Zivug the Shikin, but then there's V'hoyo the Basar Echad. So the Tachlis is the Zivug Gufni, the Mitzias of Elam Hazeh. And that's Mila. That's the next thing. Sosins Mila. Yisoid, through which the Zivu Gufni happens. And the next, and finally, of all the mitzvahs which are represented by Tefillin, Vikar, El Tefillin, and Nuksha Kol Tefillin, and the Tefillin has to be min hamuta b'ficha. The pasuk says, we say it every day, and the man ti teres Hashem b'ficha. With respect, put on Tefillin in order that. So here we learn. Rashi doesn't come because simple pshat is it should be in your mouth. You should speak Torah, but it's a remez that the tefillin has to be made, which is that which can go into your mouth, which is mutter. The diak here being mitzvahs are performed in a world where there's a choice. There's also and there's mutter. So that's mamish and the gashmis of Elam Hazeh, not just the gashmis, but where there's the world of the opposite of kedusha. It has to be dafke mutter, and that's malchus. Yikar. The glory of God is Malchus. Havayim Molach Geis Lavesh, all of its dargis. So that's the conclusion of Oiroh, V'simcha, V'sasan V'ikar. Oiroh, V'simcha is Yichud Chachma Bina, then is Yichud Zon. Nuk V'zun, that is Sasan, that's Mila. But the Yichud is Mila, and then Yikar Tefillin. Yikar is Malchus. Sosan is Zon, Yikar is Malchus. So the whole Amshocha happens, as is the Kavanah, Dir B'tachtoinim, all starting from the level of Oiroh, of Meira, of Atmos HaTorah, which is a result of the Yichud of Kudsha Bricha with Torah. The Amshocha of the Noisin HaTorah, in other words, in Torah. That's what we're up to. So, Oiz Daled. Now, to answer why Kenti Elonu, why this was factored into the Havdalah of the Motzei Shabbos. Lachazim Mesaimim Kenti Elonu. What's the deal Kenti Elonu? V'hainish Af al Pishakat after the Chashverish Anan. Even though we're still, even after the story of Purim, still in Golus. Nonetheless, the Amshocha happens, so it should be for us mit dem ganzen Sturm, with all of its intensity. In a way that's hiding your deal, if Yisha Simcha Peretz together, the Simcha breaks all boundaries, including the boundaries of Seichel. One of the nevuos, that the one who bursts forth ascends before us, referring to Mashiach, who's a descendant of Peretz, Sheperetz Gidre HaGolus, he burst the limitations of Golus, Beifin Shalamalim Medida V'Agbola, beyond limits, Mizbatlim, Kol HaCheshbonis V'Amedidis V'Agbolis. All of the calculations and limitations and the boundaries become nullified, Beifin the Mismach Gula Legula, such that Purim leads directly to Pesach, and from that, Pesach inherently is Migulas, Purim, El Gula, El HaGula, the Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Mehedev Yameinu Mamash. Kol Inyonim Elu, and all of this is hey. This all happens after the achana that we do, the Chai V'Nish B'Sim B'Puri Adol Yoda. What's the Inyan here? The Rabbi Shab says in his mind, beginning with these words, Ateres, the year Ateres. What is the Inyan of it? Shu Inyan Tainug HaNefesh B'Pnimis HaTorah. This is the taining of the Nefesh in Pnimis HaTorah, which is Adol Yoda, which is hiding Yediyah. In other words, like the Re'iyas and Elikus, seeing. The Inyan of Tainug, B'Eifan the Afutzim and Yisecha Chutza. In such a way that it comes, I don't know if that's into the words Adol Yoda. I don't know. But even the Yifutzim Nisecha Chutza, you do. that we spread the well springs outside. Not that he has this tainug, but he spreads this. And he has this love of delight, the highest level of ava. This doesn't come by itself, but through the avodah satfila b'shleimus. Less pulchana, there's no service. Kapulchana derechmus, like the service, the avodah of ava. Ad la'ava rabbi v'tanugim, the level we're talking about, all of the levels, till the one that he began with now, ava rabbi v'tanugim. The highest dargis is that's all conveyed in ad yoda. Like these and nas is gama teira b'shleimus. So this causes, he's going back now to the Torah being b'shleimus, l'chein nikras Oiroh b'tois v'sei. That's why it's called Oiroh, hainam shachas ba, shnim shechas ba, ora milamayla mayla. That we draw into the Oir from the loftiest heights, as we said before, in Torah. The gam nim shechas lamata b'yois, and it's drawn all the way down. Shagam yedei in the ba b'shleimus. As Torah comes down, Torah is added to in its own perfection. Al derech mitamidei yesem mikolam is dafra to the Talmud, the Mekabel, that is Moishe Shleimus in the Mashpia. So the lower we bring it, the greater the Shleimus. And this perfection then is drawn into the world. The Shleimus of the world means everybody, no one's left out.
Rabbi, it says Shleimus ha'am.
What did I say?
Shleimus Oiroh.
I meant Shleimus ha'am. Yeah. Okay. V'ad v'chein Shleimus ha'aretz, and he's talking about Yisrael, that Rabbi's milchama, perfect not to surrender. Kreil gamayim Rabbi saying in the Sina Yudua, we don't just mean Yisrael kipshuta, but we mean also as the teaching of the brought by the Fidig Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe's voucher, tzarech lahamshich b'chinas Eretz Yisrael b'chultzos, have to make machdo Eretz Yisrael. Shezuhi shleimus oretz lamitosa, that's the true shleimus. Elevating, making Eretz Yisrael wherever we are. And this brings the literal shleimus oretz, shezoichim likim ayiyud. We merit the fulfillment of the prophets, ki yarchav Hashem lekechas gvuchel, Hashem will expand your borders. The famous Maamer of the Mittel Rebbe, who explains there about the future expansion of Eretz Yisrael, and explains the three lands which were not originally conquered, which is what the pasuk is referring to. Adam, Ammon, and Moav, or Keni, Knezi, Kadmoini, Hoingen Avidas HaMoichin, that corresponds to Chabad. She's saying in Pnimius HaTorah, we're talking here, this is the Tainug of Pnimius HaTorah, as he said, it's the Adelo Yada, Kvishanim Sheches, the Chabad. And this Pnimius, this Tainug, is drawn down into Seichel, apprehended by the mind. They avoid the Hanal B'Purim. Through all this avodah we just described, outlined the avodah of Adelo Yada, and every year Shleimus ha'aretz kipshuta, Tanzman Arayin in Shabbos, we dance into Shabbos. This was again Friday afternoon, hours before Lichtzinden. Shabbos Parshas Tzav, that was the Krias that year, the Shabbos Parshas Shmini. Shabon Nemar, Vahibayim HaShmini. Shmini Lamiluyim was the 8th day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. Reish Chodesh Nisan, Sheis Hayom, not less than Ataras that day. That day took 10 crowns, as the Medrash says. Shekosher Meretz, Eser Amim, connected to the nation of the 10, the land of the 10 nations, not just the 7. B'chinas Ki Yarchiv Hanal, Ki Yarchiv Hanal, as we said before, Ki Yarchiv. This union of 10 that we are now going into, I think that there must have been the Tzav, that Shabbos with Tzav, but that was already going to the next one.
Yes, it was. Look at the next Maimers, the Shabbos Parshas.
Yeah, it has to be counted. It's never Shmini. But you're saying from this we're going to go to Shmini. There was full steam ahead here, and not holding back this train. So from there we go on to Shmini, and Shmini is that day was Notel Eser HaTorahs, and that's connection of Gamba in the Kinnish Meis HaMashiach Shel Shmini Nimin. The Gemara says David the Melech's harp was had seven strings. There are only 7 notes, friends. But Meis HaMashiach the Bishmeina Nimin, the Mailim Kinnish Beis HaMikdash Shel Sheva Nimin, higher than Beis HaMikdash there was 7. And then the Gemara says even further, means another pasuk, or psukim in Tilim, that the Olam Haba will be even greater. The Kinna de Lasid Lava, even after Moishe Mashiach, shall Esenim, will be of 10. As explains in the Tzemach Tzedek and the Torah, the Shlemos of these dargas 7, 8, and 10. And so we are in the state of Adela Yoda, even now, even in Golus. He's saying, he's gone already ahead to Moishe Mashiach. And from that, we come to Adela Yoda now. No comment, the Rebbe said it. And as you know, after this Maimon, the Rebbe said, Baruch Yisrael L'chaim without limit. In a way that this gula is then connected to the final one, with our youth and our elders, our sons and our daughters, call godly Yeshuvahina. A great call will return there to Yisrael. Okay, next Maimer. Next day, Shabbos at the Chavrengen.
Agav Orcha, when the Rebbe came in that Friday night, it was a sight.
Yeah, and I described it yesterday. That was our story.
Unbelievable.
It was only similar time was Heitevis. It was similar. Heite was even greater, but it was similar. Okay, let's do the Maimer of the next day, Shabbos. Huh? Lihudim Moishe v'simcha v'sasan v'kol. Lifnei in them, and before that the pasuk says, "Ve'yu Shushan tzol v'samecha," and Shushan was exultant and joyful. And then the pasuk continues, "B'chol Medina Medina B'chol Iveir." In every state, in every city, place where the king's word and ruling and law reached, Simcha v'sasin Layehudim, there was Simcha and Sasin to the Yidden. And they avenged themselves of their enemies. You have to understand what's the hemshech. The betchila, first, Shushan has to be celebrating. So that then leads to the Layehudim Moishe. So going back, the previous time we picked up from Layehudim Moishe, but there's Akdama to that. The Akdama is that Shushan is Sol of Samecha. That's how it begins. So what's the union of this? Medina, till it reaches every city, 127 provinces, and Hainu, it's explaining Chassidus, 127 Peskeser, and Chacham Bin, and Zohar Malchus, Hainu B'chol Seder Shtalshalus. So what is the union of Shushan being Tzol of Samecha? Inyan who can move it, but Rabbi saying in the Siyeno, you know, Marazal, Golul Elam. The Medrash says that wherever the Yidden were exiled, Golul Bavel, it says first, the Shechin is with him, it says Golul Elam Shechinimayim. Where's this? So the Medrash says itself that Elam Hainu Shushan. The next Golus Shushan, under Achashverosh. So the Abish is with them. Given Kasher Gol Yisol Shushan Gol Shechini Moem, since where Yidden went, they went to Shushan. That was the main place where Yidden were concentrated. And the Shechina goes with them. So Lachin Nase Shushan Abira. That's why Shushan becomes the capital to the earthly king, which is a reflection of Biras HaMelech Malchus Shalolam, the capital of the king of the world. This Melech Malchi Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We see this wherever Yidden went, so that nation becomes the superpower of the world. And when they foolishly, or by divine design, because we elevated all the Nitzutz Kedusha, they kicked us out, that was their decline. That was the end of them. Starting with Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was the superpower when Yidden were there, and then they left. And the reason, because the whole reason that Yidden go into Golus is to elevate the Nitzutz Kedusha. So the superpower is the one that all the resources the world has the most influence. So that's where Yidden are carrying out the shlichus of why they're in Golus, is to elevate the resources of the world. And when they're finished, so they move on, and it's done. In the words of Rashi, emptied like a silo without grain and a medrash, and a net without fish. So all to say, Golu le'ela mishushan l'shchinim mohem. So therefore, Shushan becomes the earthly reflection of the word of the Biras HaMelech. So after the Haman's Gzeira, Achashverosh's Gzeira has been neutralized. The first place of the revelation is the Shechina. The Eibishter is rejoicing in the capital, in Shushan Abira. That's where Yidden are. And therefore this manifests also in physically, this literal world, so Shushan was celebrating, and therefore Eid of Simcha V'Sasa Yikar Tipshuta. And from there, from Shushan Abira, where it's the primary concentration of Eden in the Shechina, because the Shechina goes with them. It's always as historically also, Eden were in the main cities, primarily. And in the main city, New York, the capital state, that's what it's called, right? It's called the Empire State. Okay, the Empire, the Medina, the Empire State. So then it's nimshach to every state, every Medina, and every city. So he says, really, you didn't have to go. The interesting thing here, Yidden didn't have to go there. So why are they there? I'm just wondering under the answer. I mean, he seems to be saying that they don't have to be in these places. They have to be in Shushan Abira. Also not. They're only there because of the birur. Don't know. Huh? What?
According to they don't need to be in the state itself. They need to do the birur. The birur happens to be there, right? In that
If he's talking about the Yidden being in the small towns or whatever, they don't have to be there and have to be in Shushan Abira. Also not. There's the same reason for in both places. That's what I'm not grasping here. Don't know. At any rate, Kamai Merazal. Something else going on here. I don't know. Why did Hashem did not exile Yidden amongst the nations? Only to attract Gedim. We encountered this a few months ago. That's in Nitzutz Kedusha. The Gemara, the Medrash says, one goes to Barbaria, wherever that is. I don't think we know. Samatria. I consider it, says the Eibishter, Moishe Gilisim Kulchem. You all went. Why? One person, one Yid has the courage to elevate all the sparks. And the stories of the Baal Shem Tov, And Talmidim, when his Talmidim ended up trying to come to Rosh Hashanah, ended up in this foreign island, and with his tefillah, he was distraught. But the Hashem told him, thanks to your whole avodah, and you met the king and everything, the influence that you had, so no, you didn't have to be exiled there. So you didn't elevate the whole world. Okay, so there is something going on here, namely, there's a distinction. I don't know what it is, but being in Shushan Abira, where most Jews are, it's not only mitzad and nitzutzik kedusha, there's some other kavanah, it seems. But a Jew being in some favaf in a place, that's purely for the bir of the nitzutzik kedusha, and he represents all Yidden. If he does it properly, no one has to go there ever again. But what are we doing in Shushan Abira? That's beyond the avodah of bir nitzutzis. It says beferish. It's beferish in Chassidus that ilo zachinu, a big shaila, a the question. So golus is critical. Then it has to be golus. How are we going to elevate the sparks? So how is it associated with the chet? The answer is that ilu zachinu, they wouldn't have to go there. They would bring in nitzutzik kedusha to us, and there was that did happen on some level. Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash, and they came from near and far. Malchus Shva, the queen of Sheba, that's Malchus the Klippa, came and brought great wealth. So there's no need to go be invited in nitzutzik kedusha. Clearly saying the only reason we're out there is because obviously the reason for the chet is Yeridat Tzerech Aliyah. There's a greater aliyah that happens when we're actually in the Mokim HaGolos, engaging. It's a much more primisdike one, it's a much more difficult one, a much more deeper one, and therefore a deeper Gila Likus is elicited. It's all part of the Kavanah. The Kavanah of Golos ultimately is not just punishment, but the Bira Nitzut is even deeper than would have been as it was Bizmei Shloimeh. Interestingly, if you don't know, this is important. The early sikhs, the Rebbe addresses this, that Golos cannot be simply punishment. That's how, that's the external, that's the excuse for Golos. But Bepinimius, it's all part of the aliyah of the neshama. That's the ultimate kavanah, which comes through the bir of the nitzutzik kedusha and the raya. Pashut the raya. Number one, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. As terrible as Yidden were, what we suffered in Golus goes far beyond any crime. So something else is going on here. Furthermore, the nature of a punishment is that towards the end it gets lighter, the sentence lightens, and then the person's freed. Our goal has got worse, culminating in the Holocaust. So now already, post-Holocaust is already the beginning of Geula, B'etzem. So everything's changing. But for 2,000 years, it essentially got worse and worse. So obviously, it's not a punishment, because for heaven's sakes, it should get easier enough. But there's some awesome divine plan, and that is the dafke, the transformation of the deepest darkness, etc. To which the Rebbe's response now is, we've done that at Masai over. And that's the final avodah, is at Masai already. But upon him, well, I'm just saying, just making my question stronger here, that even going into Shushan Abira, there's no other kavanah other than the bir of the Nitzutz Kedusha. He seems to be indicating here that there's something else. I don't know. Upon him, yeah, Obira Inyan. Shushan means a rose. In fact, in deference to to King Cyrus, they placed in the second Beis Hamikdash a rose, an emblem of a rose, on top of the ulam, one of the gates. It's called the Shushan gate. No, not the ulam. It's one of the. No, I'm sorry, one of the external gates of the Beis Hamikdash. So Shoshana means a rose. Shoshana hi aduma be'etzem. A rose is be'etzem red. But it becomes white through fire. So what's that in? It's the only source of that is the Zohar. Okay. So I guess the idea is a white rose is the ideal. But the white rose only happens through fire. So that's the key. So that red is symbolic of descent. The pasuk says, "Madua Adam levoshecha." Why are your clothes red? Meaning sadly dirtied. Shad admimos zu. This redness. Esav said, "Give me this red lentil." And when it's transformed to good, it's whitened. Like the pasuk says in Kashonim, if they'll be red, like red, Shonim means red, Kashela Galbino, they'll be whitened like snow. Let's finish the paragraph. As a Bisman Purim, so likewise Purim, why did it come? Because they had no from the Suda of that Rosh, that scene of red clipper. And they bow down to the idol. And then through the avodah of tshuva, actually also the belief mafil machshavas chutz chas v'shalom. He didn't even entertain the thought to renounce the Yiddishkeit. And deze pola aficha sagzeda, they transformed the gzeda from red to white, from darkness to light. Okay, so we're starting to understand the meaning of what of Shushan. Now, I wanted today's story, but I wanted today, just by the way, the white rose reminds me of something. There was in Germany, towards the end of the war, there was a student-led uprising, German students. Young German students. They call themselves the White Rose, and they tried to get the population to rebel against Hitler. It was obviously ruthlessly destroyed. They were literally beheaded. There was a brother and a sister. It's a famous, I forgot the name, famous brother and sister and a friend in a mock trial, and they were beheaded. But it's interesting, they called themselves the White Rose. That was the name. I'm sure it has some other significance in literature, Dafka White Rose. But we see here that the shleimus of the rose is not the red color, but it's transformation to white. Interesting. Anyway, the story I wanted to tell you is not a story. It's in the Fabrengen we'll do it tomorrow, of Tavshin Chaf Aleph. The Fabrengen of which we're learning, Tavshin Chaf Aleph, Purim Fabrengen, Tavshin Chaf Aleph, a famous sikha there, which Jem carried parts of it. I'll just tell you how it begins. The Rebbe says that around that time, President Kennedy had announced the formation of a Peace Corps. You've seen it all. When I read the whole sikha, it's unbelievable. And the Peace Corps was calling upon young Americans to volunteer to go to undeveloped countries for whatever time and help. So the Rebbe, here, Malka Shalom, the Rebbe is saying that this is a reflection of the call of the King of Kings. He is the king. He is the president of the superpower of the world, Mamash Shushan Abira. And it's a call shlichus, for shlichus. And you have to hear the words the Rebbe uses there here. This famous sikha is 1961, still pretty early. A handful of shlichim have gone out. Half a hand. And the word the Rebbe uses at this sikha is that God willing we'll share tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.